This is Radio TV Phono Nut, and what we have today is a Delco 5-tube AM radio, probably from right after World War II ended. This is in a painted Bakelite case, and the paint's in pretty good shape. There's a couple of little nicks on it, but it's not enough to warrant a repaint, at least not in my opinion. Now, this radio has been worked on, but the pictures I saw from under the chassis kind of made me want to neaten it up a bit, and also the off-on switch is stuck in the on position. As you can see, the dial light is not going off when I turn it off.
So they're offering 50% off your first order. That's right.
50%
off your Semper Fi fund. Your leftover stash of toilet. In your home or business to keep rodents and pets. Raptors and when they play the Bucks. All right, tomorrow's headlines today. This will be a great one. You were important.
Now I see that whoever worked on it installed a polarized power cord, which is good, but did they wire it in correctly? Who knows? All right, let's get this thing apart and see what we can do to correct that off-on switch problem and maybe make things a little better under the chassis, and we'll do an alignment and all that on it. Okay, here's the top of the chassis, and this might be a bit older than I thought because it uses an electrodynamic speaker. By the end of World War II, little 5-tube radios such as this, for the most part, were using permanent magnet speakers, so this one could very well be from the early 40s. Here's the underside of the chassis, and I like the fact that this has a heavy fiberboard loop antenna that will allow the radio to easily sit upside down for easy service. And looking at the repair work here, I see that they indeed, of course, replaced the power cord, but no strain relief knot here, so if you pulled on this, you could very well break it and break the connections and yank it right out of the radio, so we'll want to fix that. I really don't like how these filter capacitors are just flopping around. And this could be cleaned up a little bit. Like right here, this coupling cap from the volume control, see how it's just sloppily J-hooked here and then connected up here to this resistor when it should go down here. So yeah, we're going to want to fix all that. Sounds like a Bob Vila commercial. But on the bright side, I saw a picture of what this chassis looked like before I bought it, and it was cheap, under 20 bucks. So I really can't complain about that. What I complain about are these shysters on eBay that charge $300, $400, $500 and more for restored radios and record players, and they do a sloppy repair job fixing it up. For that kind of money, the work should be first class. Alright, this is a hot chassis set, which means one side of the line is connected directly to the chassis. Let's see how he has this power cord wired up. 1 ohm meter connection on the chassis. Let's touch the other probe to the narrow blade hot side. And see, this is wired all wrong. He has the narrow blade hot side going straight to the chassis, and that's not a good thing. Alright, checking this 4.7 meg resistor that's goes from the grid of the first audio tube to ground. It's reading 13.8 megs, so I think that one's way out of tolerance and needs to be replaced. Okay, continuing the work on the radio using this cheap Stahl soldering station, which is really a knockoff of a cheap Weller soldering station, but the tips are not interchangeable, unfortunately, and this tip is about shot, no longer than I've had it, even though I've tried to take care of it. That's what you get with cheaper iron sometimes. You get cheap tips and they just don't hold up. Well, I pulled the Weller station out, turned it on, lo and behold, it started working. But that didn't last long. It lasted about, 10 minutes maybe. And then it cooled down, and this is all I get on the display, just a flashing 888. And that's all I get. So I'm thinking there may be something intermittent going on inside that thing. I may open it up here shortly and see what's going on with that. Hopefully it's just a bad solder connection that I can fix easily. You might remember this is the one that kept coming loose. The heating element kept coming loose from the handle, and I had to JB weld it back in place. I've had to do that a couple of times already. I just need to break down, turn loose of the bucks, and get a Hayco and be done with it. And Weller stuff used to be top-notch. I know we had some soldering stations whenever I was taking electronics at the local community college, and some of those things probably dated back to the 1960s, and they were still just as good as they were the day they were bought. But that's back when they were made in the United States, and the company wasn't owned by somebody else. Now, I forget who owns Weller, and I think the junk they make is manufactured in Mexico. Okay, I have things cleaned up a bit. Wasn't able to do anything with this switch, so I just bypassed it. That way it's on all the time, unless you unplug it. And with these old things, that's probably what you need to do anyway, even if the switch is good, because constantly turning it on and off and on and off is just going to put wear and tear on a switch that may be hard to find when the time comes. So we're just going to leave this one alone, and if I do anything to it, I will install an inline cord switch in the power cord, and we'll break the hot side of the cord to do that. And of course we have this reversed from the way they had it, so the neutral side goes to the chassis here and the hot side goes to the rectifier tube the way it's supposed to be. These filter capacitors, I redid them and attached a heavy piece of component lead to the negative end, and now they're in here nice and secure. They're not flopping around in the breeze like they were before. Alright, here we are for a little test run before I continue, and it's almost 9 o'clock in the evening.
Just wouldn't do it. Swing and go free. Was it on the footstep? I remember all the mechanics. I spent 160 hours in the classroom. I only need. I know.
Yeah, we're getting some DX, but I'm going to check a few other things, and then we'll perform an alignment, and then this thing ought to be ready to go. Okay, whoever worked on this previously failed to replace the antenna isolation capacitor. That capacitor is not an issue if you don't connect an outside antenna, but if you connect an outside antenna, it could pose a problem, because that capacitor isolates the antenna, the primary winding of the antenna, from ground, and I guess it's a good thing that was the last thing I wanted to replace tonight, because my soldering iron tip is just beat to crap, and I like to never got that last capacitor replaced. it's WSM, and it looks to be pretty close. But tomorrow we'll fire up the old signal generator and get this thing aligned, and it ought to be ready to go.
Beforehand, and then literally it's person to person. You just have to like have a good conversation. Oh, would be cool. That would be the worst thing, because we all. It's been hard for everyone. Find you, hunting you down. It's about different things. James and Tomas Dulorme battle for the
Okay, we're ready to do an alignment now. We have the generator set to 455 kilocycles. Have the tuning condenser set to the top end of the dial, and we have our signal generator ground connected to the chassis, radio plugged into the isolation transformer, and the hot side of the generator connected to the grid of the converter tube through a 0.01 microfarad capacitor. And we're waiting on the customary 15-minute warm-up time to elapse. And I've already checked for the presence of voltage on all of the trimmer screw heads on the IF transformers, and there is none. You really want to do that before proceeding with an alignment, just to make sure they're not hot, especially if you're using a conductive alignment tool. And normally I would connect a VTVM or an oscilloscope across the speaker voice coil, but I don't really think I need to do that. I can align it by ear. Okay, we're ready to go. Radio's at maximum volume. Signal generator is only high enough to get a usable signal, because we don't want the signal to be high enough that it kicks in the AVC circuit, because that'll mess you up on getting an accurate alignment. Alright, let's do this. Well, that was kind of tight. I think that one was pretty much spot on. Let's see about this one. That one was off a little bit. And that one was off a little bit. Now, that signal generator set to about 1720. This time we have the generator connected through a 200 picofarad capacitor through the external antenna connection, and we'll want to adjust the oscillator trimmer, the smaller of the two gangs, for maximum output. Another one that's a little tight. Now we set the receiver and generator to 1300. And just radiate a signal into the loop antenna and adjust this antenna trimmer, or RF trimmer rather, the big gain, for maximum output. And there it is. I'm going to cover that light up so it won't blind you, but we have it aligned and connected to the outside antenna for a little bit greater sensitivity, and we're getting a little weak country station from 35-40 miles away.
It's action.
They really need to turn their modulation down. Heck, that could tear up a speaker if you left it on there too long with it turned up that loud. Talk station about 90 miles away.
Partners at Job Creators Network Foundation. Portions of our show brought to you by Job Creators.
The nigga had to let it go. People talking down on me, I guess that's how it go. Let them know, that's on me. Shackles on.
We gotta get our mumble gospel on. And that's about all we're gonna get. So yeah, I think this radio is about done. We're ready to put it back in the cabinet and call it a day. And no, it's not that I have anything against black gospel music or any other type of gospel music, but that what you just heard in my mind is just noise. I mean, if that's what floats your boat, then go for it. But I've got some old black gospel 78s that are very much worth listening to, and I can actually sit there and listen to them and get something out of them. But it's like so many other genres of music, it's just gone to pot. Alright, we're back together, and this is the kind of switch that I may end up putting on the power cord. This is on something else that I have, and that way I can just flip it on and off and be done with it. I'd like to find a good old American-made switch, not some modern Chinese crap. Well, we're all back together, and it's a shame the only station I can stomach is the very weak one at the upper end of the dial.
City where it's
Yeah, she was killed. She was 21 years old, young lady, just
able to get a coach fired there, and go on down the line. I mean, we can pick up pretty.
Alright, there we go. It's fixed. Okay, the fun's not over. Let's see if we can get this soldering station to behave. I saw a YouTube video where somebody fixed an older version of this with the red LED readout that the culprit was a bad surface-mounted capacitor. And you wouldn't think this thing, being no older than it is, would have a bad capacitor, but you never know. Or it could be something else entirely wrong with it. But let's flip it on and see what happens. Yep, it's still flashing 8s. Alright, Weller WE1010, Apex Tool Group, made in Mexico, designed and engineered in Germany. And their office is headquartered in Apex, North Carolina, so they make the rounds, don't they? Office here, designed in Germany, made in Mexico. Alright, here we are taking apart. You remove 2 screws back here, then the plastic shell just is held in by clips, where the old ones were held in by actual screws. Big power transformer, AC line coming in through the switch. And this looks like our output from the power transformer going to the control board here, which is where I suspect the trouble lies. Alright, here's the control board exposed. Really doesn't look like much to it, but under this LCD display there's a surface-mounted IC that's probably the microprocessor. And I believe this is the cap that somebody changed on theirs to get it to stop doing that. But I'm not going to just change this. I'm going to check a few things first. Okay, well here's where we are with this thing, and it's not looking good, at least not right now. I consulted the manual to see if there was any kind of troubleshooting procedure or schematic diagram or anything like that on this, and it goes without saying there's nothing like that. All it says about repair is you have to send it to a Weller authorized service station, which is not going to happen because it would probably cost about as much as what I paid for this. So it's going back together. I'll play with the buttons some more to see if I can get it to function, and maybe somebody watching this will chime in and give me some ideas if they've had a similar problem. And if that doesn't happen, then guess what? This thing's going file 13. And I read a few negative reviews about this soldering iron. A couple of them had to do with the power transformer burning up. And there were reviews about the iron itself coming apart, just like what happened with this one. Didn't see anything about the blinking display, but pretty much from what I'm reading, the quality of these things has pretty much gone down the toilet, but the price hadn't gone down any. And that's what really irritates me. You pay $125, $130 or more for something like this, and then it breaks right outside of the warranty period. You know, that's not good. Like I said, we had some soldering stations at the local community college that were, at the time, 30 or 40 years old and still kicking, but it's not the way it is today. On second thought, forget the repair advice. This thing just broke again, and something sparked, and that's it. I'm not even worrying with this piece of garbage. I'll keep the stand for something else, keep the power cord. Yeah, it's a friggin' disgrace. Pay this much money for a tool thinking you got something that's going to last a long time, and all you got's a piece of garbage that won't even hold up. Just barely last out the warranty. So yeah, Weller, you lost a sale. It's the last product I'll ever buy with your name on it. Yeah, the only thing I'm saving off of this is the AC power cord and this power switch, and most expensive power switch and AC cord that I've ever owned. But the rest of it, as you can tell, I just took out my frustration on it, and it'll go in the garbage. But yeah, it really is a crying shame that I might expect something like this out of the $26 Chinese soldering station that I'm currently waiting on a tip to show up for it. But something like this that cost over $100, I expect a lot better out of it.